It's a pleasure having you on the morning news on Vision Card, especially the first edition of the news for this week. On what is making news today, the role of private education in the provision of quality education will come under spotlight today in Yaoundé during the 13th National Commission for Private Education in Cameroon. The meeting that will be chaired by the Minister of Basic Education, Madam Yusuf Adija Alim, aims at mapping out strategies to better the private education sector in the country. I'm still talking about education. We are some few weeks to back to school, September 2018, and parents have already started visiting markets and bookshops to get the different school needs for their children. The Vision Card team visited some bookshops and markets to find out if textbooks are available. And this is the report. Few weeks to the resumption of schools for the 2018-2019 academic year, there is a debate on the availability of textbooks. Parents are already complaining of the scarcity of these books. From a list of 20 books, I could get just 7. The other 13 are not yet in the libraries that I have visited. The librarians, on their part, attest that the scarcity on availability of these books, amongst other reasons, is due to the fact that some of the books are new in the school program.
Some publishers has tell us that the book should come on 27th of August.
Nonetheless, there are certain publishers who already have their books available all over the national territory.
Books are available since a week. We can find it in all bookshops, in all the region. The books, English books for cours préparatoires and English book for cours élémentaires 1.
More so, there is hope that before the end of August, these books will be in the markets and libraries. It should be recalled that from this academic year, it is one textbook policy that is being implemented. Publishers who were selected to print books were given certain criteria to follow, and it is upon that they were selected. It is now their turn to meet with the engagements of meeting with deadline, which is the 27th of August. Away from education, let's now look at housing conditions in some parts of Yaoundé. The situation of persons living in the Korbikok neighborhood in Yaoundé remains a major worry despite government's effort to provide low-cost houses in the country. Our reporter Joyce Dianangwang visited the Korbikok neighborhood, one of the enclaves areas in Yaoundé, and she says the area needs an urgent facelift. Her report.
Anarchical construction, dilapidated houses, poor drainage systems, poor disposal of waste. This is an overview of the situation faced by inhabitants of Korbikok neighborhood in Yaoundé.
The roads are not accessible here because, like, to leave from the road to come here, you need to walk here and there, and there's water. Water is standing everywhere, and it creates breeding grounds for mosquitoes. I think the space between the houses are not really there. They are choked up. Toilets also are not really hygienic here.
There is too much dirt on the road, and everybody is urinating everywhere.
No road for people to pass, so we cannot keep our belongings properly because at every time people will just pass and steal them.
The houses, people are constructing houses everywhere. The toilets are stinking. The water is very dirty, first of all, because people are throwing water all around. And up there, it's causing erosion because people are not throwing water inside the gutter.
Despite setting days aside to keep the area clean, the decision has not yielded fruits, as many are still reluctant to get involved. They, however, called on the government to give a helping hand.
If everybody could have been sweeping all around like this, like us we are doing, maybe the quarter would be good. But people are not taking care. We even decided that every Friday of every first month, that will keep our quarter clean. But when Fridays come, everybody that's saying they're occupied, some people are saying they're working, so it's a bit a problem. So
we try to sensibilize the population on certain days, like to clean the quarter clean, sweep all the roads, empty trash cans. But it's not really possible because everybody is not willing to do that.
Break the roads and to distribute mosquitoes net for the newborn babies or for the less than 5 years.
Very well. Thank you.
The government, which has though built locust houses to palliate to this situation, still sees slums overcrowded due to low income rates and inheritance, according to those interviewed. Expectations therefore abound that many locust houses be built and made available for those who actually need.
Colby Cork in the Central region. Let's now take you to Melon in the Littoral region, where the lack of access to birth certificates and education are some of the problems faced by Bororo people living in the Mungo division. This was revealed to the regional delegate of social affairs by the Bororo people in Melon during the celebrations of the Day for the Indigenous People. Our reporter Lauren Gameni was there, and she puts together the following report.
Cameroon counts about 1,400 octotones made up of two main groups, the Mbororos found in the northern part of the country and the Pygmies in the east region. Officially celebrated in Cameroon since 2009, the 24th edition of World Octotones Days in the Mungo division was an occasion for the Bororo residents in Melon to recall the difficulties they encounter as indigenous people.
So the problem we own problem, the problem for acted Nissan. So we already explained all the things for acted in Nissan, for we Pekin and for we big man, and election to come, we not get no acted in Nissan. And if you want to make election and all, we not get a card d'identité, we not get a voter card if you not get acted in Nissan. So we don't explain all the things for Madame Delegate.
Celebrated this year under the theme Migration and Movement of Indigenous People, this theme intervened in a global context where rural exodus is the order of the day. For this reason, Mbororos residents in Melon are launching a clarion call to their peers on the importance of education.
And benefit from this fact to plead with the minister and our parents Muslims who are present here by encouraging them to send their children to school. By sending our children to school, this will help to reduce the level of illiteracy. We all know that Muslims hardly send their children to school. So please, you guys should encourage them. I thank you so much. I'm Musa Aisha and I'm from 5. I solicited my GCE today. I have 5 children.
This ceremony, organized by the Regional Delegation of Social Affairs for the Littoral region, equally had as goal valorizing the culture of these people attached to their ancestors.
Let's now talk about the 12 files that were being submitted to the Constitutional Council by candidates whose files were rejected for the upcoming October 7 presidential elections. The Constitutional Council has 10 days to pass verdict, and our reporter Prince Munditanda was at the Constitutional Council and he puts together the following report.
12 among the 18 candidates rejected by Elections Cameroon from participating in the October 7 presidential elections in the country have filed in their complaints before the Constitutional Council for urgent review and reinstatement in the race for the Unity Palace. Among the plaintiffs, Geneviève Zé of Sans Frontières Ebolowa, who have not paid the 30 million francs caution, neither has she provided all the required documents, is urging the Constitutional Council to reinstate her candidacy, claiming she is the Messiah sent by God to set Cameroon free, and that it is in the interest of the Constitutional Council to permit her lead Cameroonians to God. Nonetheless, one of the lousiest complaints filed in comes from Kum An Ihims of the Bia political party, who is asking the Constitutional Council to reject with immediate effect the candidacy of incumbent Paul Biya and a candidate of the CPDM party. He claims his party cannot have the same name with an individual. Jomo Leopold Steph of UREC party has tabled 2 petitions. The latter also holds that Paul Biya is not eligible for the elections, as such calls for the rejection of his candidacy, and also plead with the Constitutional Council to reinstate his candidature, though he has not fulfilled all the requirements. Just like the above-mentioned candidates, others have similar complaints, pleading with the Constitutional Council to permit them run for the elections, even without having fulfilled all the required conditions. It should be noted that the Constitutional Council has 10 days to review the petitions and pass its verdict.
Still talking about politics, opposition parties in Cameroon have failed to pose a real threat against the ruling CPDM party in presidential elections. They have successfully failed to commutatively get a 50% of votes since 2004, when their first coalition opposition was formed. Our reporter Claudia Sono now looks at the figures of the opposition parties in presidential elections in Cameroon.
Experts maintain that an opposition coalition in Cameroon stands absolutely no chance of unseating Paul Biya, who's been president of the republic for 36 years and is seeking re-election this 2018. They explain that these parties have failed to get up to 50% of votes since multi-party democracy was tested in the country's 1992 polls. In the October 11, 2004 presidential election, which saw the first allied opposition bid, incumbent Paul Biya was opposed by 15 other candidates after the opposition failed to agree on a single candidate for a 10-party coalition. He secured 70.9% of the votes against 17.4% for his nearest rival, John Frundi. The cumulative result of all 15 opposition parties who ran the race stood at about 29.1%. The October 11 presidential elections fell even shorter of the expectations of opposition fanatics. Long-time main opposition leader John Frundi reserves 10.71% of the votes for his SDF party, while other big names like Garga Haman Aji, Aya Paul Abine and Edith Kabangwala had below 5% each. The percentages of all 22 opposition parties amounted to only about 22.1%, with Biya grabbing 77.99% for his CPDM party. It is with these figures that experts conclude that until a drastic shift on the paradigm occurs, an opposition coalition in Cameroon will remain a flowery, fruitless ambition.
Council authorities in Cameroon have been called upon to judiciously use the resources put at their disposal for the economic well-being of the country. The call was made over the weekend by the Minister of Local Development and Decentralization, George Elanga Obam, as Cameroon observed the 7th edition of the African Day for Decentralization and Local Development. Details with Shu Emmanuel.
As Cameroon joins other countries to celebrate the 7th edition of the African Decentralization and Local Development Day, locally elected council authorities have been called upon to work diligently for the socio-economic development of the entire national territory by joining other organs in the vehement fight against corruption, which constitutes an impediment to local development.
Of course, in this all-out fight against the plague of corruption that impedes the development efforts of our country, emphasis shall be laid on regional and local authorities, which is the place par excellence where proximity social services are offered to citizen users.
Placed under the theme, Fight Against Corruption at Local Level, a sustainable voice for the transformation of Africa from within its territories, Minister George Elanga Obam moved to the Yaoundé City Council to encourage workers and authorities on the transparent management of resources for general interest. After touring around the City Council premises, the next stop was at the Yaoundé 4 Council, where a similar exercise was carried out for corruption to be completely stamped out in local governance.
Just came to assess that, considering the technical services, everything was organized so that the fight against corruption is a reality. And I can say I was at the Yaoundé Governmental Council and was here. What I saw is a proof that people are taking care of the duty they are to render to the public, and that the fight against corruption is a reality.
The unprecedented crowd at the premises of the Yaoundé 4 Council demonstrated the attachment of the authorities to the values of good governance, which propels socio-economic development at local areas. Cameroon is therefore ready, especially with the new Ministry of Decentralization and Local Development, to satisfy the entire populations.
And we now end this newscast with this brief in sports. Cameroon's men national cadet team have qualified for the 2019 Under-17 AFCON belt for Tanzania. The Cadet Lion beat Congo yesterday 3-0, and it should be noted that Cameroon joins Angola in being the first two countries to qualify for next year's Under-17 AFCON games. Ladies and gentlemen, that was how we saw it for the morning news on Vision Card. Thanks very much for your kind attention, and do have a blessed week.